Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to our second attempt to get this show done. Forget everything that we said before, gentlemen, and I will pretend it's all new. Right, first of all, the man, the myth, the legend, and I'm not talking pirate-wise or Northern Monkey-wise, it's Geoff Arsenal. All right, Treacle?
Daniel, nice to see you again.
Well, can we give away that we've just spent the last 10 minutes seeing you and saying what a fine-looking gentleman you are, and we're quite jealous.
That is a myth.
And we didn't want to have Geoff on camera because people, the ladies around the world, they would have their knees trembling, and we can't have that, can we?
Well, I'll see what happens to that AFTV. So you can't have me, mate. I'm sorry.
No, that's just too much Geoff for anyone to handle. So you good then? Have you missed us?
I certainly have. Yeah, definitely.
I hear you were doing a bit of moonlighting yesterday.
No, definitely not, mate. Nothing at all. Haven't had anything to do. Just. I'm enjoying the football, though. I've got to be honest with you.
Don't. You'll jinx it, right? Also with us tonight, it's old Piratey, the man who I messaged at 7 o'clock and said we're starting live at 7:30. He went, I might be home by then. It's Chris Carpenter.
I said I will be here. I said I'll be just there or thereabouts. Yes, hi Danny. It's a pleasure to cross your path in these stormy waters once more, and I can confirm that I did indeed hear a Mr. Geoff Arsenal on a rival podcast. And I was very pleased to do so, I have to say. It made that podcast more listenable than usual. So I very much enjoyed it.
Moonlighting again. And talking of moonlighting, our bloody Ellis, he's been snapped up by Tom, hasn't he? He's doing a show with Tom tonight.
Well, Ellis, what, tonight? Oh, is that tonight, is it? Oh, I shall watch that as well then.
Well, it's on at the same time as we're on, I think. So.
Oh, then I bloody well won't.
Everyone's watching.
That's Ellis the hero, as he will now forever be known. So yeah, good to him. And Tom's channel is doing rather well, so good for him as well. And yeah.
It's just so sorry it's going to go downhill from here with Ellis turning on there.
Yeah, I mean that's the downside. You know, you book trash and this is what happens. But
well,
it is what it is, you know.
Geoff's been the star of this podcast since 2012. Geoff, you're going to have to move over and let Ellis, because Ellis is going to get a big head and he's going to have all the demands. All your biscuits that we pay you every year contract-wise, Geoff, out the window. Ellis wants them.
Is it only 2012 since we started this year?
Oh, wow. Yeah, we got you on, I think it was November or December 2012 on the old podcast.
Well, the oldest one here, longest serving.
Yeah, it's only you and me left, really. The rest of them have all been bleeding shipped off to I don't know where they've gone, actually. Best we don't talk about it, eh, Geoff?
No. Yeah. Well, I'll be getting a gold watch soon, Dan. That's what I want.
Well, you were the only man who actually got a trophy. I was looking through the ABW folder of pictures that I've got, and there's a picture of you holding up, your hand, and that trophy that you got. Oh, great days.
What was that? When I won it, I think 3 years on the trot or something like that. The prediction.
Yeah, that's why no one else got a trophy, because you kept winning it, and officially it's now yours. So yeah, keep it.
League, that's right.
Pat Brady has put in the chat testimonial for Geoff next season. Excellent. Right. Also with us tonight, it's our Josh. You're right, Josh. Come full camo, as I thought. It's not camo, is it?
No, sorry. It's a monochrome flower print.
What? Should have guessed that, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I blame Thunder Road for yesterday saying that I have no style. So I thought I'd bring up my game a little bit.
Can that be the title of the podcast, please, Danny? ABW presents monochrome flower print, because that's the best thing I've ever heard Josh say, ever.
I mean, we did a lot of hipster shows as well, so I'm surprised it's bottled down to that little soundbite.
Very true.
What we do need, people, as is the new way of ABW, if you can put in the chat, ABW title, and then in quote marks what you want us to call the podcast. I'll cut them and I'll paste them into my notes. And then at the end of the show, we'll pick the best title. How many other podcasts in the world will give the listeners, not fans, listeners, the chance to name the podcast? So, Josh, your idea is out, because we're not having it because you're not even a listener, are you? You don't even listen unless you're on.
Oh, no, I don't listen if I'm on. I can't bear the sound of my own voice, so I'm surprised we've got any listeners left.
In fact, most of the times when you're on, you're not even listening, you're reading the chat. Like last night.
I would like to disagree with you, but that would just be incorrect.
Oh, you got any advice for Kris? He's got a broken pussy.
I don't know. I think you've already seen a vet already, so probably continue with that. Fire him up with some drugs and you'll be happy. Just don't let John Welsh near it for at least 48 hours.
Yeah, that'll do. So, Kris, it's you do know cats cost about £1 each, and I've worn mine. Any of them get ill, they're going straight in the fucking sea. And you live near the sea, so can't you launch it in the sea and get a new one?
No, there will be no new cats. Bobby is I don't know where he is at the moment, but he's had his first 2 shots of insulin. That's the first time I've ever had to administer a syringe myself to an animal. That was quite an experience yesterday night and today, but no, he's doing okay. Certainly had me worried, shall we say. I was not in a great place at the weekend because it came out of nowhere. Bless him, but he's doing okay. So hopefully with his medication, there'll still be a few years in the old bugger yet.
So right, now you got to remember to carry a penguin biscuit with you around every time in case he gets a little bit of the shakes. And
exactly,
I chew down on that.
I've been lifting him up and putting him in places and making him comfortable and running around like I'm a bloody maid. So yeah, he's getting all the attention.
What happened before the weekend?
Yeah. I hope he'll be okay, but yeah, not a fun time.
I know it is really worrying because when my Bergie decided in lockdown to knacker one of his back legs, I screamed at him because I got so fucking angry with him. He couldn't have done it the week before or wait until after, and it turned out I think he just he'd sprained his leg. So it is so worrying when you've got creatures that you like. I mean that's how we talk about John, isn't it? Creatures that you like, we've got to look after them.
Absolutely.
I think the YouTube is censoring because in our chat we can see that Mike has put ABW. Geoff has. Oh, there you go. It's used the word shit. We haven't blocked the word shit. Mike, you've put Geoff has the least shit beard as a title, and we can see it in our chat, but we can't see it in the YouTube comments. So I'm going to have to make a note of that and add it to the list. So far, we've got a couple of decent names. All right, we have yabbed on. I
was going to say all our fans in Scunthorpe will be very disappointed.
We don't have fans, we have listeners. We're not pretentious enough to say we have fans.
Kudos goes out to the lad. Is that true? Nice to catch you guys at the civilised time, 4:50 a.m. Do you think it's 4:50 a.m. wherever he is? The Archangel.
Archangel, yeah, that means he's in Australia, which is
fair play to him.
That is either he's had a good night out or he's got to get up earlier for the morning. I doubt very much he'd get up on time just to come and see us, would you? Well, I don't think you do. So what we're going to do, we'll start with you, Geoff, as you've been away for a while. Oh, actually, everybody, if you in the chat box, another thing I've thought of, put where you're from, and we'll give a little shout and say hello and where you're from, because I saw another podcast do that recently, and I like the idea of it. I don't know who it did, but I'm stealing it. Geoff, the only note I've got written down is if you'd have before the game after the Man City and the Brighton game, if you'd have said we'd get 10 points out of our next 12 points, you'd have had us locked up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. The men in white coats are on the way round for you, Daniel, and it's amazing the turnaround. The games that we've won. I was so impressed with that Wolves game. They're a good side, that Wolves, well run, good club. I think they was bought out in 16 or 17. Got a good manager there, and he's involved with Mendes, isn't he? I think I've got a feeling that Mendes has got a few quid in that club because the players that he's got there now. I think they're a good side, that Wolves, and to go up there and get a terrific result, it was totally unexpected for me. And I think they've done really, really well. And going on from that, obviously, last night's game, the first 45 minutes again, we just continued from the Wolves game. Looked so solid. We looked so much tighter and structured with that 3 at the back. It does obviously hinder us in midfield. I think we felt that in the second half. But first half, that's the best I've seen Arsenal play for a long, long while. And if we can just maintain that, you can see the structure and the discipline that he has instilled already. And if we can just maintain that and carry on as we are, I think we're going in the right direction, that's for sure. The second half of the game was a little bit... I just think we played a lot of games, haven't we? Lost a lot of players. And it's starting to bite now. A lot of tough games as well. It's not, they've been tough games and 4 away games on the bounce, wasn't it? And unfortunately, we've got some tougher games coming up. But, it's looking good. I'm happy to watch them again. I'm quite enjoying it. Kris?
Yeah, I mean, as you said there, Geoff, the result, I think the Wolves result was one that I wouldn't say I didn't expect, because it's kind of so typically Arsenal to go and get a result when you least expect it. But on paper, you looked at that and you went, yeah, if somebody had offered you a draw before the game, you probably would have gone, all right, that's fair enough. Interestingly, tonight they just lost to a last-minute goal from Sheffield United Wolves, so that helps us given our result last night, which we'll come to. But yeah, as you said, it's nice. I think what I like most at the moment about watching us is that there appears to be a plan in place. There appears to be something happening, and it's not to knock Emery, because I do think that he got a lot of things right in his time, but obviously got a lot of things wrong as well. I think once the fans turn, you're kind of buggered with us. That's kind of how we are. And the good thing is that at the moment, and I'm going to touch everything wooden in my flat right now, but it appears the fans are fairly on board with each other. And whether that's because we can't see each other and go to games and at each other's throats, I don't know. But it does appear like we're on the same page. It appears that the players in the main are on the same page. And the good thing is, as much as one in particular I wouldn't want to see go, obviously we know who that is, it sounds like Mikel is very much gone in there with the attitude of, as he said, fresh start for everybody. You've all got the opportunity to impress me. If you're not on the boat, not only will I throw you aboard, but I'll tie weights to your ankles and drown you in the process. And that's a good way to be, because you've got I think he's got that from Guardiola. That's very much the way I compare the situation, particularly with a certain German of Turkish descent, would be the Sergio Aguero situation at Man City when Pep came in. He was very clear to Aguero, you work hard, you track back, you do what I ask, you don't play. And for a good 6-7 weeks, Aguero didn't play. Well, he's still there now and he's still banging in goals. That sort of goes to show what type of coach Guardiola is. And that's the same approach Arteta has been taught. And I like that. And the other thing that I'm quite enjoying at the moment, as well as on the pitch, is the off the pitch sort of communication from Arteta, which again was something that I think Emery got, rightfully so, a bit of stick for. I like the fact that Arteta is blatantly calling the board and those above him out, and saying, I'm not looking for Anton Griezmann and Messi, but I am looking for reinforcements. I am looking to keep the players I like. And if you want me to build something here, you've got to back me. And I like that in Arteta, and I like that that's coming out on the pitch. So yeah, overall positive. And so I know we'll touch on last night, but I'm pretty upbeat. What's your thoughts, Josh, at the moment?
Yeah, I think the same for kind of the Wolves performance. I only watched highlights of it because I was quickly trying to wrap my brain and thinking, what the bloody hell happened in the Wolves game, albeit only a couple of days ago. That's the only problem about having so much football back to back and playing every 3 days, is they all kind of meld into one, especially when we don't make many changes in our squad. So yeah, I think the way that we're going, I would say I was on the positive side of where we were with the performances. To be honest, after the Wolves result, I thought we could have gone, arguably, the next 6 games and won them all, and picked up the 18 points from there. 18? Was it 24? No, 18. I don't know. Maths. 18 points from there. But, we've seen what's happened with Leicester last night, and I think it's unfortunate. But I think we've still got a chance of ending up in European football, certainly. I think the Champions League might be a little bit out of grasp now. I think a win against Leicester and then continued for winning the rest of the season, we could have really have put some pressure on the likes of Chelsea and Man United. And you're going to have to say Leicester as well. They're in that argument for who could finish in the Champions League places. But this could all become irrelevant when Man City find the right evidence, should we say, that they will have their ban rescinded from Champions League football.
Geoff, do you, like Josh was saying then, you could make this run for the Europa League? Am I the only one who thinks I am quite happy if we finish outside the top 7? I do not want any Europe. For Champions League would be good because we're going to get a shitload of money to get in there, and when we can buy lots of players, you're going to get, like I think Man United all those years ago, 4 or 5 years through, I don't know how long ago it was, they won the Europa League and they got 15 million quid for winning it. We don't need 15 million quid enough to have to play 15, 16 games a season. Do you want European football? Because I bloody don't. We've seen it's a disaster, the Europa League, for us.
No, I don't think so, mate. I think I've quite enjoyed it. And I go to all them Europa League games as well, obviously the home games. And I quite enjoy it. I do quite enjoy it. It's we got to the final last year, and that was a disaster. But if we'd have won it, it would have been good, and we'd have been happy with it. But it's only we've got beat. People, I don't really want to be it anymore. You know what? It does appear. I mean, Chelsea did it. They was out of it for a year, then come back and won the title, didn't they? I think. I think you're better off being in Europe. It's easier to buy players. Players do want to play in Europe. All the top players, they want to play in the Champions League. They would suffer Arsenal being in the Europa League, and then hoping that they'd do enough to do enough work themselves to help us get into the Champions League. They build it together. I would rather be in Europe than not. I've got to be honest with you. And I understand what you're saying about the rest period and everything else, but I think it's every competition we should take seriously, because I tell you what, I'm not very hopeful of the league for a little while.
Kris, what do you think? Because I'm just looking at on Wikipedia now, and it says if Man City's appeal is coming up, is it this week or next week? And it says down to 8th place at the moment was qualification for the second qualification round of the Europa League. We're in 8th place at the moment. I think we're in 8th, because I don't know if this has been updated. Yeah, we're still in 8th place after it's updated today's table after the games I forgot to watch because I didn't know they were on, because like Josh was saying, there's so much football. Do you want Europa League football? Because we'd all love Champions League football. Do you want Europa?
I've gone back and forth on this. I think from a longevity point of view and from the club's point of view, I think Geoff's spot on. I think you need to be in Europe to attract players, and it's not just about attracting what you would call the stellar names. I think you have to be in Europe to attract even the sort of the lesser or the next shelf down players. So,
but don't we do that as it is because we're Arsenal, because of our stadium, because we're in London?
Yeah, but I think that's part of the problem. I think too many of us still think, we always have been and we always will be a massive club. And as you say, we're in the most popular city in Europe, arguably. And there's the fan base and there's the history and everything else. And that's another thing I think Arteta's doing well. He's obviously selling the idea to the young players that he's kept on contracts recently. But you still need to offer a player an opportunity to get game time. You still need to offer an opportunity for a player to be in the spotlight. And I think European football goes hand in hand with that. I think it's very hard to attract. If you're looking at a young player, for example, in France, in Spain, in Germany, and you're looking to bring them in, you say, yeah, you're coming in, we've got plans to use you, but we don't know how many games realistically we're going to be in, but we've got the league and the FA Cup. That's all well and good. But if you can say to that player, look, we've got European games to run as well, there's a very good chance you're going to get a lot of game time. I think that will trigger the sort of the balance to get them in. And I think you look at a club like Everton, for example, and the fact that they're trying to sign players, but they're relying on brand Ancelotti, and that will get players attracted over there. But if you're competing with the likes of Everton, which genuinely I think we probably are for some players now, if you can go and you can say, look, we're Arsenal, we're in Europe, and we're going places, and we're a historic club with everything that goes with it. Or you can say, or you can go to Everton, who, yeah, sure, have got one of the best managers in world football, past and present, but there isn't really much else to offer at this stage. They've got a lot of plans, but they're not in Europe. They haven't got this, they haven't got that. That's where I think you might roughly sort of tilt the balance in our favour. As far as actually on the pitch goes, it's a tough one, because I think that the biggest problem you have is if we're not in Europe, normally you could say, we could do the Chelsea, the Leicester thing, where they didn't have European football and I think they won the league those seasons. But genuinely, and as much as I don't like saying this, we're not a side that's capable of winning a title right now, whether we've got Europe or not. We're just not. We're very, very far behind, not just Liverpool, but behind Man City. I think we're behind Chelsea still. I wouldn't say we're behind Man United. I think we're probably on level pegging with them, but obviously they've shown improvements. But we're not a side that, even if you took European football away, could compete for the title, I don't think. So I think we need to be a bit mindful of where we are right now, and European football, I think we need it. I do think we need it as much as Europa League is a little bit meh.
Josh, Pat Brady here has put, think the Europa helps us with FFP. So cover that a little bit as well, because you know your money stuff. I'm not even sure what FFP stands for. Most of them do. Financial fair play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what it means, Josh, but I don't want to have to explain it to the listeners. You explain it.
Yeah, I think it would help us. There's obviously going to be some revenue through it. We know it's not as large as the Champions League money that we'd get through from there. And I think the club and the hierarchy are acutely aware of our financial situation at the moment. We even heard back last season when the Kroenkes came into full ownership of the club. Josh Kroenke came out and said that, we're a Europa League side with Champions League wage bill. And we've seen that with the Mkhitaryan deal, with him going out very quickly, and how we're looking perhaps to move on other players as well, those high earners. I don't think we'll see the likes of Sokratis make it through this transfer window without leaving through the door. And I think we're going to have to sell in order to buy in that kind of wage bill situation. I think we need to level that out again. But what we could do overall in terms of signings, I think, as Kris has said, we're kind of in a weird kind of situation where, we're kind of competing with Everton. To be honest, West Ham might compete with us for certain players. When they brought in Felipe Anderson a couple of seasons ago, you could have seen that as being an Arsenal kind of signing. But we're just going to have a different option for kind of playtime. And if we are in Europa League, although we as fans might not give a huge damn about the actual football and the quality of that, that's an additional 30 odd games for an exaggeration on our season. And those are the kind of games you can give to those kind of players and say, look, we can take a bit of a risk on you, some kind of mercurial talent from a European league. Same as someone like Alan Saint-Maximin at Newcastle, who's been linked with us. I wouldn't have him anywhere near our squad, to be honest. But if you did want to bring in a player like that, then he's going to want to have to play 30 plus games a season, which is what he's going to get at Newcastle. It's probably one of the reasons why he went there, compared to going to the likes of, say, an Arsenal or, maybe a Liverpool, where he's going to get game time, but not at the number of minutes that he's going to get at Newcastle. Probably going to get 15, 20 games. He knows he's inconsistent as a footballer, so he's not going to give you that desired result. And I think that's where it's going to be difficult for us, because of the market we're in for getting players in, is we're not going to find players who are consistent with their end products. We've seen it with Dani Ceballos this season. He's doing great things now, but is that going to be sustained over this kind of 4-game period we've now got left? Because he's only really shown it for 10 games. And same with Guendouzi. Although he's fallen out with the manager, who's another player who has great games and then has awful games. We're in that kind of market now. And if we've got a manager who knows how to flip and switch his players over when they're inconsistent, which I think Arteta kind of does, we've seen that he doesn't shirk the need to drop any big name. I think the only player he hasn't dropped from the kind of big players we've got is Aubameyang. Everyone else, Lacazette's been rotated out the side. Well, we haven't seen Mesut Ozil since lockdown due to potentially a back problem.
Ozil bingo.
Exactly. Ozil bingo. We saw David Luiz was taken out of the side for a bit. We've seen it happen, and him kind of rehabilitate these players and bring them back in when they're in form. So even Hector Bellerin in the last couple of weeks, to be honest, the performance he put in against Leicester, I think was by far and away the best performance we've seen from Bellerin in 18 months. But yeah, what do you think, Danny?
I'm sighing at my computer to decide. I'm trying to get a file with my Ozil bingo, and it's on the non-SSD drive, and it's now going, whoa. Sounds like it's like trying to launch the Titanic. Here we go. Right, I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to share a screen, which I should have been able to do before, and Chrome tab, and oh, here we go. Ozil bingo. Pretend I've just said it, and then it pops up. Look at that. That's
Ozil,
what I made.
Bingo.
Hey, has anyone got a complete line yet? Because as you can see, I've almost got. I win £350,000, which is how much it cost me to enter this. So I don't know if I'm the only person or I've been mugged off, but Ozil bingo. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of entertainment. What do I think about the about us playing in the Europa League? Did you say?
About Hector Bellerin. I thought you were huffing about Hector Bellerin's performance against
I
Leicester.
was what is now could be known in the trade as pulling a Josh. I was reading the chat box and wasn't listening to you. Geoff, were you listening to Josh? Because I wasn't.
I was. I don't mind talking about Bellerin. To be honest
Forever the pro, Geoff. After you
think-
talked about that, Geoff, could you talk a bit about Guendouzi? That's the next thing I want to cover.
Yeah. Bellerin, funny enough, I've been a critique of Hector Bellerin for a while. He had a great maybe 6 months with Arsenal when he first broke in, and I've not seen much from him since. I know he had a bad injury, a couple of dodgy injuries, but even since he's been back, he's been fighting to get back. But last night, I definitely saw an improvement. So obviously the competition with Cedric, that might have livened him up a little bit. Personally, for Hector Bellerin, I would rather he just concentrates on his football than doing all the modelling and that other stuff that he got involved in, because he's still got a lot to do to be a regular in an Arsenal football team that is playing for major honours. He's going to be okay if we're mid-table. He's about the right player that we're going to require. But if he's going to be in a top Arsenal team, if Arsenal can, make it up to, the top 2 and top 3 and get to semi-finals and finals of the Champions League, collectively they're going to have to be better than what we've got at the moment, and Hector's going to have to really he's got to mark up a little bit. Cedric, I like him, and out of the 2, I saw him a little bit at Southampton. Fancied him for I didn't even realise he was going to be an Arsenal player, and I was thinking at the time he's a good player, that kid. But I've been to Southampton a couple of times and seen him, and you know what? I fancy that he's the best out of the 2 players. But we obviously will have to see over the course of time. I think he's a little bit more confident. I think he's better offensively than Hector Bellerin. But you know what? He done well last night, and hats off to him, because I know he's been taking a lot of stick in social media from all the meatheads that you normally get on that abuse players when we're not playing very, very well. But the same now. We're going on. You wanted to talk about Guendouzi. Guendouzi, I've read a couple of things about him. He's had trouble at every club he's been to. At Paris, he was calling out players that were 10 years older than him. At Lorient, again, having fights in dressing rooms, and that's when he was 17 and 18. I fancy he's got fantastic ability, right? I do think he'll go on and be a good footballer, but it's about his attitude. I think he's a winner, and that's I think that's part of his makeup. But you're going to need to, you've got to curb that bad attitude that you have. Apparently he's a great trainer, but he's got a big mouth, and big mouth will get you in trouble. But I do like him. I think I would like to say I'd like to persevere with him, but if he's too much trouble, if he's causing trouble, all over the place and unsettling the coaching staff and stuff like that, then you can't have him, mate. I think we could make a nice few quid of him. I think there will be 2 or 3 clubs in him. Maybe you might even make 30 million of him. I don't know. If you could do that, I would, because he's going to be too much trouble otherwise. Leopard don't normally change his spots, does he? So we don't need that at the moment. We've got enough of a build-up without mollycoddling Matteo Guendouzi. So, put the money into somewhere else, I would say. Daniel?
Cheers. Kris, I didn't realise, but I saw a tweet saying that he was suspended, told not to come in for 3 months when he was at Leyton Orient in the Farmers League. So being that's your team that have managed to sneak promotion whilst the mighty Khan have been swandling near that's not even a word. I've made a word up. Tell people about Guendouzi, his history at PSG, why they let him go, when he went to Lorient, and the 3 months that he was out there. And then Josh, after that, tell us what you think his role is at the club, if you don't mind. We can't hear you, Kris.
There you go. The thing with Matteo is... Sorry, the thing with Matteo is that, as Geoff touched on there, is he's a very confident, very driven individual who sometimes lets that confidence lapse into arrogance. There's the old adage that a lot of people think all French people are arrogant. I can confirm that's not the case, but there are a lot of French people who are arrogant, and there's also a lot of other nationalities that are arrogant. But I think when it's a French player, there is a lot of highlighted on them. If you look at the Clairefontaine school, if you look at some of the previous French talents that have come through the ranks, there's quite a few that you could point that finger at. See Samir Nasri, see Yuri Jokoyev at times. There's Hatem Ben Arfa. There's a lot, basically, of young French talent that has come through and had a little bit of chip on the shoulder, shall we say. The thing with Matteo, when he was at PSG, it was very much he was sold because he was making demands above his station in terms of his playing time. He felt that he was better than some of the players that were there. And it works both ways, because you look at that and you think, well, actually, that's quite a good thing. That's good that a player's got so much belief in himself that he should be getting games and he should play ahead of other people. That's not always a bad thing. But then when it sort of leaks into when essentially you're told then by the club you're at, in this case PSG, that actually, you're not ready yet and we're going to move you on because you obviously want game time. He had the perfect opportunity under Longereau at Lorient to get games to play, and he did that. And that's essentially what got him the move to Arsenal, got him scouted, because he was in that particular season, the second season at Lorient, he was fantastic, and that's where he got his opportunity to shine. The unfortunate side of Matteo's personality is that he doesn't seem to learn from the mistakes that he makes, and that's the biggest concern I think that Arteta's got with him. I'm not, I'd say, his biggest fan. I think he's been very impressive since he's come back. But you look at the difference in attitude between him and Granit Xhaka, for example, who doesn't take away from what happened with Granit's sort of behaviour on the pitch in that Crystal Palace game. But look at what he's done. He's got his head down. He's trained hard. He's done what was asked of him. He's been professional, and he's put in some quality performances. The problem with Matteo is he hasn't done that. Now, we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but if it's anything like what brought an end to his Lorient career, which was essentially where he, threw his toys out the pram and had a physical altercation with a coach, and you can't have that. And as much as I like him, and I do like him, and I like his spirit, and I like his aggression, I'd like his ability on the ball. I think that's something that has been very easily swept under the carpet. But you only have to look at someone with similar hair in Adrien Rabiot to see what happens when you make demands and you don't get what you believe you should get. Sometimes you get moved on, you get shipped from club to club, and you very quickly get forgotten. And that is what's going to happen to Matteo if indeed he's sold. And the biggest problem that he's got is that he's been playing with fire in terms of thinking that he's how can I put this? He in his mind, he got into the team under Emery and he thought he was untouchable. Well, unfortunately, the situation being as it is now, is if we get offered a good swap deal, particularly in light of Atletico Madrid's interest, he'll be gone. And there's no guarantees. I mean, can you imagine him being managed under Simeone? I mean, that ain't going to end well. So, yeah, there's a real talent in there, but you have to toe the party line. And as much as I like him, and as much as I championed him coming in, and as much as I wanted to see him in the side, he's signing his own transfer out the club at the moment. And I as somebody else pointed out, I think on another podcast to listen to, he hasn't got much time. That's the problem. The transfer window is now open. The season is 3-4 games away. It's not like he's got half a season to reinvent himself. He is he's going to go. Simple as that. I think Arteta's made his mind up and he's out the door. So it's a shame, but you've got to learn, and especially when you're young, you've got to learn quickly. And at a club like Arsenal, you can't get away with that sort of a mentality. Maybe if you're Spurs, you can get away with it, but you can't at a club of our size.
I've left a gap, Josh, so you can talk about Guendouzi. So what is his... Well, I've often said that as a rough rule in football, you've got the defensive midfielder, you've got the bloke in the middle who gets it from the defensive and gives it to someone else, and then you've got the one who does the assist, does all the flair stuff. Is Guendouzi any of those? Because I can't see that he is. And what would you classify him as without being rude?
I'd say, although I've noticed Kris has currently run away whilst I was looking for someone
Say
who might
whatever
be
you
able
want about the
to,
Farmers League.
Well, I was hoping he'd back me up, to be fair. And I'd say that I see Guendouzi as a bit like a ball carrier, to be honest. He's not going to do...
I think one of the cats has had a shit.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
For those listening, Kris has ran off into the background, shut his bathroom door, and he's spraying air freshener in the air where the cat was.
We'll wait for him to get back and we'll just ask him, Kris, you feeling any lighter now?
Is that you or the cat that had a poo in the lip tray that you had to spray for?
That was very much the cat. I couldn't sit here any longer. Sorry.
That's all right.
I wanted you to listen to what his point was.
I was saying that Guendouzi, to be honest, his position, I see him as like a ball carrier within the midfield. I think that's his main kind of characteristic, attribute that we use him for. And I think it's a big reason why Emery used him so much, is because we didn't really have another player in the squad that could kind of do that. You know, because Mesut Ozil's got, his mum's written him a sick note for the 13th week running, and she's now off with RSI. And there was just no one really else there. Aaron Ramsey isn't a ball carrier, whatever Jason tells you. I think there was just a problem. We didn't have that within the squad. So Guendouzi obviously became a key part of it. And he thought he'd earned his stripes at Arsenal. But I think one of the things he'd missed out on was when you change manager, almost everything gets reset to zero. And he's got to try and build himself back up again and show that there's a reason why he should be in the side. And I wouldn't judge him necessarily on his goals and assists. I think it's great if he pops up with some every so often. If he could get hold of five goals in a season and maybe 5 assists as well, you'd think that's an all right return from midfield for a player of his age and the role that he kind of commits. Then, yeah, I think that's a reasonable response. But I'm not really sure. Well, let's put it this way. One of the poor things for Guendouzi, from his point of view, is he is most certainly replaceable. If he doesn't think he is, which I think is probably his mentality at the moment, is he thinks we couldn't find someone to do the same job that he does for us, where unfortunately he's not at the pinnacle of his game yet. There's a reason why Man United paid so much for someone like Paul Pogba, who I'd say has similar kind of attributes at his kind of age. Same for another Frenchman, Rabiot, with another interesting, mentality off the field when it comes to how much he rates himself. And I see those kind of similarities in those two players in his game as well as in his kind of in his ego, should we say? Like, if you go through the stages of how much those 3 players big themselves, well, one of them's proven themselves on the world stage and has got a World Cup winners medal. So he can walk around, be a bit arrogant, and as various different pundits will get irritated about the various different designs he has shaved into the side of his head every other week. And then you've got someone like Rabiot, who thought he was bigger than PSG. And if you think you're bigger than PSG and Juventus come in for you on a free, fair enough. But I think he kind of lucked out with that one. And then you've got Guendouzi, who, you've got people like Simeone at Atletico wanted to come in for him. And who has he been linked with? I was trying to think. I think Barcelona were maybe linked with him. Something like Juve. Yeah, they'll try and pick him up, but he's not going to play there every week. No. He's going to sit on their bench. He's going to pick up 15 to 20 appearances for them tops in a season, probably as a rotational player. He's not going to have the chance he's got right now. But I think that's just something that I think that's what Arteta's trying to say to him, to be honest, is look, you've not had it, Arsenal is as good as you're going to have it at the moment. Anywhere else you go is going to be a step down in terms of playtime or just general club size.
Kris, got some stats. First of all, that's my brother, Michael. Doesn't know anything about football. Claims to be a Liverpool fan. Name for the show, Who Did the Poo?
Yeah.
I like that. Here's a cheeky tweet I did the other day, Kris. Matteo Guendouzi, last season, 48 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 12 yellows. This season, 34 games, 0 goals, 3 assists, 8 yellows. That works out to be 1 goal every 82 games, 1 assist every 16 games, and a yellow card every 4 games. Doesn't sound good, does it?
I mean, no, it doesn't. But I think you're looking for the wrong. I think you're looking at the wrong stats in that type of player, because I think if you said, well, I'm just trying to think of a recent destroyer. But if you looked at Gilberto Silva's goals and assists, you probably wouldn't get many more out of him. But what you would get was a solid central midfield player who made a whole team tick for 3 years. So I think I think if you're looking for goals out of Guendouzi, you're looking at the wrong player. And if you're looking at assists, you look at the wrong player. He's more of a second assist, and like Josh said, he's more of a sort of a deeper player. And again, he's 21, so he's not the finished article. How I would change the question slightly, and I want to ask Geoff on this one, is Geoff, if you go back to the days, particularly, I know it's a different game, I know it's a different mentality, but you look at when George came in at Arsenal. He very much came in with the Arteta philosophy of, I want to build around some of the youth team. I want to build around some of the local lads. He got rid of some of the players that were there before. Yeah. It's a different mentality. And I know Arteta's not going to be the same sort of personality as George Graham. But was there any players that George relied on that maybe needed to have a little bit of an ego check when they were first introduced in that squad all those years ago?
I just think he was so fierce, George, when he came in. He was so, very upstanding. The players had to respect him. When you got that, you got that air of invincibility about you. That you come in and you just hold the room. Some people can do that, and when he came in, that's what he did. And he was very strict. Obviously, you could let them go off and do their bits and pieces on the Tuesday club and stuff like that. But when I was training, he was very, very strict. I think that Mikel was coming, and he's done more or less the same. He's obviously a lot softer. He's a lot more technical about how he goes about his work, and his methods are obviously different. He's a proper football man, whereas George came in and he was more just structure, defend. We got up the other end and nick a goal. Then once we'd scored a goal in that particular time, everyone just give up because we said he couldn't break us down. But obviously Mikel was very different. But I just think he's a nice guy as well, and he has given him a choice. He said, right, it's a blank canvas. Everyone's got a chance. And if you play well and you train well, and I like the look of you, you'll get a chance of playing. And then once you get in the team, you continue to play well, you'll stay there. It's as simple as that. Obviously, a squad rotation comes into it. So at the same time, he's giving other young kids that are bite at the cherry. Whereas, when the squad rotation comes in, when you get in there, you've got to perform again and stake your claim on the place. But I think he's doing it a different way. I think he was more like an Arsene Wenger type of way. Arsene Wenger was obviously, all he commanded was respect because of, again, he's another figure that was, he just demands that respect. But what Mikel's doing is quite different. But I do think he's laying the law down, and he's saying he's not going to have no nonsense from players that are going to disrupt at the football club or do not want to be here. If they don't want to be here, you're going to go. It's as simple as that, because he'll find people. He'll get people in that do want to play for the football club, and and I think he's going to need the 2 or 3 windows to get his players in to really get a proper look at what he's got. But I'm really happy what he's doing at the moment.
Danny.
Sorry, just one other quick thing on that same subject. Does that mean for you, Geoff? Does that finally mean the end of Mesut? Because it feels like Mikel's got more of a voice with the board than Emery had. Because Emery clearly wasn't fussed about Mesut and was quite happy to let him go, but yet he's still here a year later. Mikel seems, he liked him at first, he played him at first, but does this finally mean that Mesut goes? Because, or is it you're able to name a 20-man squad and he's not even getting on the bench? It's not a back injury, is it?
No, obviously not. He's got to a stage where again, it doesn't matter how big you are. There's no one bigger than the football club. And Mikel was here before Mesut Ozil, don't forget. He knows the football club inside out. He's worked under some good managers already, or he's worked under who was he at Everton with? It was Everton for a long while, wasn't
David Moyes.
David Moyes. Okay, no, he's a disciplinarian. He was under Arsene Wenger, which was a different. He gave you respect, like I've explained. And he was under Pep Guardiola, so he's worked under some decent managers, right? Obviously, he's picked off bits and pieces from each of them, and it's just his way of working. He will not have anyone be bigger than the football club. It doesn't matter who you are. Mesut Ozil simply is not doing it on the football pitch, even before Mikel Arteta was at the football club, as a manager. He's not been doing it for 18. I love him. I think he's a genius. But, we play football on grass, don't we? We're not playing it in the mind. He's got to. He's been playing Fortnite apparently, isn't he? So, but he's got to buckle up. Otherwise, you personally, even if it costs you money to get him out of the club, if he can't play, right? And even on him playing, when he does play. If he's not affecting the game, he's really playing like with 10 players, because he doesn't really do a lot of defending. All right, he'll get back into position. He'll do a lot of running around, but he's not one to get his foot in. And sometimes you are carrying him. I don't think we're going to be a team. I don't think Arteta is going to be a manager that's going to let anybody, just swan in and swan out when they want to. I think he's going to get proper footballers in that want to play for the shirt.
Yeah. Kris, has that picture made you moist?
It brings me back to the days when really baggy football shirts were a thing. That is certainly, I remember the 90s, and you everything you bought was like extra large, even if you were small. So yeah, good times. But yeah, people forget he was at PSG, of course.
Would he be there with JJ Kocher as well?
Yeah. JJ would have been there at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
That was.
That's why we should have kept the Iwobi.
Back in the days when PSG were basically a new club. But yeah.
Josh, you were something, weren't you?
Yes, I was. So I think one of the things that the sale of Guendouzi may open up is the fact that we don't necessarily need to sell Aubameyang. And if you had the choice, and I think the fees are going to be similar, so it could be 30-40 million pound for whomever we get rid of out of those two, who would you rather keep hold of?
Oh, Aubameyang all day long. I mean, what's he got this season? 23 goals in 40 games or 38 games or something like that. I was looking at it earlier. And even when we're playing badly, he's still, the amount of work, how many other world strikers in the world? You would say he is a triple A level, like in games, a triple A level striker. Doesn't really come to games, does it? He's gold star striker. How many of those other ones? We've seen that, who's the French bloke at Atletico, whose name I can never remember, Griezmann. He's a striker kind of thing. And look what they've done to him, playing him out wide. He's doing nothing there now, is he? In fact, there's been rumours that we're going to get him on loan. But you look at the amount of work that Aubameyang does, and everybody loves him. And it's just, I think he is the, like one of you was saying earlier, Aubameyang's the only one who hasn't been dropped. I think he is one of the most important, apart from with Leno as well, but you can't really drop Leno. But Aubameyang's one of the most important players at the club. So I would get Guendouzi out straight away. And we know, Kris, don't we, that if Guendouzi leaves this season, goes to Atletico or somewhere, 30-40 million quid, in 5 years' time, we'll be looking at him going, Arsenal let him go, and he's just won the World Cup with France. And
well, yeah, but you
turn him into the player that he can be, have we?
Yeah, but you take that chance. I mean, Dimitri Payet was brilliant for West Ham, but no West Ham fan now will tell you they love him. They think he's an absolute scumbag, but he single-handedly carried that club on his back for a season. So sometimes you have to look at the big picture and let the right players go. There was a young player, you might remember him at Arsenal. He's called Nicolas Anelka.
Talking about him in the chat.
That lad would have I genuinely think would have got close to Thierry Henry and Ian Wright's records if he'd have stayed put and been with us, because he had everything, that lad, absolutely everything. Unfortunately, what he also had was a prick of a brother and a massive attitude and an ego. And yeah, whilst he had a career at Real Madrid and went on to do some good things, he never really had a career with France, not to a high degree. And ultimately, I think he'll look back at his career and go, I could have done a lot more. And there's so many players that leave Arsenal and look back on it and go, actually, do you know what? I probably shouldn't have left.
You look at Overmars. He spent, 4 or 5 seasons at Barcelona. Didn't win a damn thing. Petit went there.
Another one. Yeah, exactly.
Wonder, straight back out again.
Yeah, Adebayor. What did he do with his career once he left? I mean, I expect you could say he has some success at Man City.
Will the younger players of today look at that and go, "Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't," because I know at his age I wouldn't have done that.
I think the biggest problem that Guendouzi has right now, I think Josh hit the nail on the head, is in his mind, he thinks he's key to the future of Arsenal. I think that Arteta's looking at this, and I know it's sort of flavour of the month in terms of names being bandied around. It's very clear that Thomas Partey is very interested in a move to the Premier League, and it's very clear that he's fluttering his eyelashes in Arsenal's direction. We don't need to sell Guendouzi to Atletico Madrid to get Thomas Partey, but what we do need to do is fund someone like Thomas Partey's wages. And if that means getting Guendouzi off the books, I could see Guendouzi going somewhere like Inter, who, as much as I love them as a club, are quite happily to frivolously throw around massive wages to very average Premier League players. See Ashley Young, Alexis Sanchez, and Christian Eriksen, for example. Victor Moses as well. So it's as much of a case as if you get Guendouzi's wages out the door and Mesut Ozil's out the door, suddenly a deal where some people would look at Partey and go, well, there's no way we're in for him because he's massively out of our budget. Suddenly he's actually in our budget. And that's where Guendouzi has let himself down, because from us not having options, we've clearly identified a player that we would like, and a player who would probably quite like to come to us, and a midfielder that we've actually been crying out for probably since Vieira and Gilberto's era, because that's the type of player that I think would be massive for Arteta, because he could build around him. So Guendouzi was irreplaceable a year ago in terms of the future. All of a sudden now he's not, and that's where he's gone a bit wrong. And it's humility, you've got to learn. You've got to be humble. Or you won't have a career.
I think in the same way that we mentioned Nicolas Anelka already, the way he was key, or thought he was key to Arsenal's future, was the fact that we sold him. We built a new training ground.
Yeah, exactly.
And got Thierry Henry in. I think it'd be exactly the same Guendouzi. Guendouzi is key to Arsenal's future, but not with him in the sides. It's selling him and using him to rebuild your midfield. Because if you say you get 40 million for him, to us, even if we don't get Thomas Partey, you could get two 20 million pound midfielders from. To be honest, you could pick some out of the Championship that would get better returns with better balance. Yeah, from there, just from the teams going down. So yeah.
Just seen a tweet here from Osman the Gooner. He says there's an article from francefootball.fr, and the gist of it is Guendouzi refuses to apologise in a meeting with Arteta and Edu. David Luiz tried to intervene, but the situation hasn't changed. I did try and read it and convert it to English, but it didn't convert to English very well. It made no sense at all.
And the only thing I would say, I don't want to I know we probably should move on from this subject, but the one thing I would say is, for all those people that are getting on their high horse and saying, oh, you're a disgrace, you're this, you're that, think back to when you were 18 to 21, 22. I know I thought I was invincible. I didn't give a monkey's what anyone told me. If I'd made my mind up about something and that was it, I knew it all. And I think that's the great shame in all this, because you could look back on his career and you look at the difference between Bukayo Saka's interview the other day, where he just comes across as a humble, likable, well-educated young man. I think that's where Matteo probably could do with, and sometimes in life, I'm sure we've all on this podcast tonight, I'm sure we've all done it. Geoff, being a newly married man, will probably do it for a lot of time in the future, where sometimes you just got to say sorry, even if you don't actually think you're in the wrong. So I think sometimes you just got to be a man about it and say, do you know what? Yeah, my bad. I was in the wrong then. And behind closed doors, you can call your missus or your manager all you like, but on a united front, sometimes you just got to just say the right thing and just get on board. Otherwise, you could be a footnote in a career that never happened.
Geoff?
No, you know what? I was just thinking out loud. I want to know who the best goalkeeper at Arsenal is at Leno and Martinez at the minute.
It's another one, yeah. That's another one.
Well, I did do a cheeky tweet because I've deleted all my tweets because I don't want to be cancelled, and I did a cheeky tweet the other day and saying that I would love to give Martinez the rest of the season. This was probably as soon as Leno got injured, because there was talk that on the 1st of July that what's his name for X-Man? Joe Hart was on a free transfer.
Yes.
And people were saying we should get him in, and other people were saying that the old matey boy at Southampton who's on loan at Celtic. And I said I think we should give Martinez the rest of the season. And my God, it had about 1 million retweets or some number like that. I think everyone, I don't know a single Arsenal fan, Geoff, that has gone, nah, Mount Martinez, we need to get him out. It's just fantastic, isn't it? He's so full of confidence and he's very shouty, which I like from a goalkeeper.
Yeah, you've got to do it. It's the longevity, though. You know, we've had a few goalkeepers in the past that have had a few good games and then they fell to pieces after the 1 or 2 bad mistakes. You know, it's after the first or second mistake, how you pick yourself up. Obviously, being a goalkeeper, if you make a mistake, 9 out of 10 times it's a goal. You know, if you're playing up front and you know you make a mistake in your own box or something like that, generally you might get away with it because there's a lot of other players that can support you like that. But a goalkeeper might, if he drops one in, it's on you. So it all depends how he gets on after his first mistake. And goalkeepers do make mistakes, but you know what? It's a toss-up at the moment. He's doing really, really well, and again, it's good for competition, isn't it? But I think. If that was both fit, I think Leno would definitely. I think he gets it from his shot stopping. I think he's a better shot stopper. But Martinez definitely, I would say, he definitely commands his box a little bit. He's a bigger man, isn't he? You know, he looks a lot bigger and stronger. And being a goalkeeper, you need to have that little command in the box, don't you? But it's interesting, no? What about you, Josh? What do you reckon?
Well, we've taken, what is it, 2008 when Crazy Jens left, and we've been waiting since then for another goalkeeper to kind of replace him, and now we've got 2 along at once, just like buses. And I'm not sure who I prefer. I think before going into it, I had my doubts over Martinez. I thought he was a bit too erratic. His performances in cup games were just a bit too, a bit nervous, I think. But now he's got a clear run. I think he might be. I have a touch of the Lukaku's, I think. When he knows he's got a clear run at a position, you know, the number 1 shirt, when Lukaku was number 9, it's perfect. If he knew he was number 9, he'd be performing for you. Anytime you brought any competition for him, on him, he'd crumble. The reason why he didn't make it at Chelsea for Lukaku is because Drogba came back and he was just like, I'm off. See you later. Just doesn't fancy it. It's got to be number 1. There, and I think that's the same with Martinez, to be honest. Now that he knows Leno isn't pushing him because he's out injured, and Matt Macy, I don't think has got a long-term future at Arsenal. I think he's a 3rd choice, and that's the best he'll probably have. You know, the pinnacle of his career will be the 3rd choice goalkeeper for Arsenal. I think we can kind of see him be a bit more relaxed in goal, and yeah, he feels he's playing well at the moment, but we'll say it is only 3 or 4 games that he's had for us in that number 1 spot. But long may it continue, absolutely. But I think at the moment, I still think Leno has shown he's consistent across
people
a
have
long
got short
period of
memories,
games.
don't they, Josh? That's the thing. People forget that Leno basically carried us for half a season in goal.
Yeah,
The biggest challenge I think we're going to face in the summer, or I mean, I say the summer, it is the summer, although you wouldn't think it looking out the window. The biggest problem you're going to face is Martinez has been a 3rd choice and a backup choice for 6-7 years of his career. You know, he wants to play. So I think people are overlooking the fact slightly that he's in the shop window right now. And as much as he's probably enjoying being Arsenal's number 1 and playing games, he's out there looking for potentially the next move, because if he's getting game time now and he's performing and he's rightly getting plaudits for it, he's going to be on the radar of certain other clubs. Yeah. And there are a few pretty sizable clubs in Europe right now that don't have particularly good 1st choice goalkeepers. So, you know, and if you look at, for example, if Manchester United made a decision about David De Gea and moved on the most overrated goalkeeper in European football, am I right, Josh? they brought in Dean Henderson, for example. Then Sheffield United needed a new goalkeeper, and somebody like Martinez, whilst you think he's probably, well, he is above that level, suddenly is going to be very appealing to be playing every single week. I look at Jordan Pickford at Everton. You know, there's a lot of players that there could be a bit of a merry-go-round, and the hardest part for us might be convincing Emi Martinez that whilst he may not be first choice, he's going to get all the Europa League games, etc., and so on. So
Archie's got a great point in the chat box as well. He just says you've got to think about the fact that we've got a back three at the moment as well. So there is that additional cover. We've looked a lot more stable. I can't think in the games that we've played where Martinez has started that he's had even close to the amount of work that Leno had to do in certain games where he is jumping up and down every so often to put saves in. We're a lot tighter at the back, and I think that's also helping him as well. Not to say he's not making great saves still. You know, there's the save against Norwich. You can think back to we're only 1-0 up. He gets down well to gather that one. There are a couple of other ones to look at it, but like compared to Kasper Schmeichel at the other end for Leicester, I think last night, I think he's in a different league. Schmeichel, he's a proper shot stopper. I don't think Martinez would have stopped all of those chances if he was there.
There you go. Is moving on slightly, Geoff. A question from Loki. A fellow bloke, same as me, born in London, now lives in Cambridgeshire. He says, do you think playing with no fans helps our team in regards to the pressure, etc.?
No, I don't think so. No, not one bit, especially at home. You know what? You know when you get on the pitch there, you don't worry about fans. You don't really. You get used to it. I can't see any problem in, I think they enjoy it as well, don't they? Surely you rather have people there making a noise, and I don't see that's any difference at all. Don't, to be honest with you, I think they enjoy the game. Just want to get out there and play football. Obviously, it's just better than an empty stadium, isn't it?
Either of you two think that we play better? There's less pressure on the players?
I think there's something else though that we've seen because of the lack of fans in the stadium, and that's the lack of yellow cards and red cards. You've seen, I mean, this is purely anecdotal and conjecture. There is no factual basis to this other than the games I've watched. But I have seen fewer yellow cards since the restart than I would have expected to see in a normal run of games. And I think that's because the crowd aren't there to get on a referee's back. Like we saw, was it 14 fouls Leicester committed last night? If we've got a crowd there that are baiting the referee, getting in his ear constantly when they're fouling us, because the players, they've got their jobs to do. They need to get back into shape. We can't have like a Granit Xhaka, David Luiz, Aubameyang running across from each corner of the pitch to shout at the referee, because we know what's going to happen. Leicester are going to take a quick free kick and we're done for, and they're in behind us.
We only got one yellow card, and Bennett and Evans were quite getting stuck in, weren't they? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think we've seen it in every game that, even fouls that we've committed, you've gone, that should probably have been a yellow card, to be honest. And we've got away with them. And I think it's purely down to the lack of fans that are there, that extra holding the referee to account. Because at the moment, if they put a yellow card up or they don't give a yellow card, they're not going to get a huge amount of backlash, are they? It's only going to be from the manager who's on the other side of the field that if he says anything wrong, the fourth official is going to send him to the stands and he's got to socially distance, I don't know, in row Z. Or you've got the players who, to be honest, are a brand new manager, and if they even for half a second go out of position and go start chasing after a referee, Arteta's going to be shouting at them to get back into position and probably drop them for the next game. So I think that's where we've seen it.
On that subject of discipline on the pitch and yellow cards, we are bottom of the Fair Play League.
I saw this, yeah.
I watch the game just like you do. We get dished out yellow cards left, right, and centre. In my opinion, and I'm a little bit biased, but mate, we're bottom of the yellow card league of the Fair Play League, and I saw that game last night. How on earth Leicester there was one when Tierney got body checked.
Yeah.
And as he was getting body checked, he got pulled back just to make sure he didn't go past it, which was a complete obstruction. And the lad got away with it. Was it Turner or whoever it was? I can't remember the lad's name. New kid that came in for Leicester last night.
Oh, Bennett.
Bennett, yeah, one of them mates. And it was shocking. And then we had yellow cards all over the place. And the sending off, obviously, that's a little bit. I don't know whether or not you think that was a red card or not. Maybe that's a discussion. But bottom of the fair play league, I just can't believe it. I find it quite incredible.
I was really wound up last night, Geoff. Really wound up by that red card. I really was, and I was quite surprised how many people were on my timeline. I've learned the Twitter game. The simple rule is don't reply to anyone ever. But I was quite surprised how many people took umbrage at the fact that I thought it was a ridiculous decision. I thought it was utterly ridiculous, and I think Josh is with me on this one with the VAR thing. You know, you can make anything look like anything if you look at 14 different fucking angles of it and you slow everything down. To me, and I know I relate this to the sort of level I play out on manager, but it's a classic 2 players going for a bouncing ball and one slightly late. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a dangerous challenge. Yes, he should have been booked. Absolutely. It was a bookable offence. But when you look at the history of us this season, and anyone who listens to this podcast, all 3 of you will know, I don't like blaming referees. I don't like, because I do think we've got away with a few over the years and over the season. I'm sure it balances out. But some of the decisions that have gone against us are laughable. And if, like Mikel Arteta said, if Eddie Nketiah is endangering an opponent with that challenge, then Jamie Vardy should have had 4 red cards for that challenge on Mustafi. Anyone that thinks that Vardy didn't leave a bit on Mustafi, for me, is ignorant, because it was just the most blatant extending of the leg you've ever seen. Whether he was trying to injure him or not is irrelevant. He extended his leg into his face. And just to give you a few examples, I don't expect everyone to remember these, but a few that I've looked into. We had a McLean challenge on Guendouzi, which was studs up, which got a yellow card at Norwich. There was the blatant foul on Callum Chambers against Crystal Palace, which saw a goal chalked off. We had the Pepe incident in the penalty area against Sheffield United. That was chalked off. There was the challenge on Nketiah himself, actually, at Bournemouth in the first game under Arteta, which was a blatant red card. Not even a card was given. And there was the challenge by the West Ham guy. Was it the left back? I forget his name. Cresswell, yeah, who nearly cut Nicolas Pepe in half. And also, let's not forget the Jorginho never got a second yellow card, scored the winner against us at the Emirates. There's more. There's more decisions, and I think the thing that really wound me up the most about that whole incident last night with Nketiah was that referee, who does look like a massive virgin, by the way. It was the way he went over to the screen, took one look at it from the angle that, as I think Josh pointed out in our group, the one angle that made it look the worst, and immediately, red card. And
that's what the commentators were saying, weren't they? That he looked really quickly. They're making out that it's a good thing, something like that, which means he's banned for 3 games. You can't just look at it and go, "Oh yeah, no. You're rewinding it on as many angles as possible and intent."
And also the fact that the people in the fuck truck or whatever it's called who looked at these replays, they will have been communicating with the referee the whole time, going, right, we've looked at this, we've looked at that. That angle isn't great. This angle isn't great. There's no way that you're not telling me that somebody wasn't in his ear going, look, ref, here's the situation. Okay, we've watched this. We think it's a red. In fact, it's definitely a red. If you could just trot over to the screen, that'd be great. Just have a quick look. Just pretend you're interested, and just send him off. There is no way that he hasn't had communication from VAR to say we want to send him off. But because it looks better if the referee goes to the monitor, which, by the way, the referee has gone to the monitor twice this whole Premier League season, twice. Both for Arsenal red cards. Funny that, isn't it?
Or Chris, were they unsure? Were the guys in the van unsure?
And didn't want to,
you're going to have to make a decision.
Pass the buck.
Yeah, we're unsure about this.
Yeah,
I think,
and it was unfair. Where he just looked at that one shot, and it did terrible from that particular shot.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, yeah.
But to be honest with you, it was late, and by the letter of the law, I think it was a red card, mate.
I think it was a red card, to be honest. Yeah. When you get to that angle, like previously, you go, no, it's not a red. It looks like a yellow, but then you see the way that the guy's knee goes when Eddie makes contact with it, and you're like, that should be a red card. I think the biggest grumble we've got as fans is the fact that consistency between that and what Jamie Vardy did.
Exactly. And
it's
the
like
fact
Jamie Vardy gets sent off, we're fine.
And the fact Jamie Vardy's offside to score the equalising goal, and why not more of that has been made? I mean, I don't understand the law anymore. If a player can basically be flagged offside for his armpit or his shoelace or his scrotum being slightly ahead of the opposition, which we've seen hilariously against Spurs several times, which is always good. But for me, he's offside. He's leaning into an offside position, and nothing was made of that. I'm not saying our defending was great, but it's like you said, Josh. It's the word consistency, and there's still people in the chat now saying that it's a red. I just don't think it is. I just don't. I think he's trying to block it.
Going by the precedent of the previous decisions he's made, then not a red. But isolated on its own, that's a red card. That happens in the first 5 minutes of the game. Red card.
Yeah.
Without anything else happening beforehand, I think you're fine with it. And then Jamie Vardy does what he does to Mustafi. 20 minutes later, I think a red card.
Was that reviewed? Wasn't that reviewed as well?
No, because the referee saw it, didn't he? I don't know.
I thought it was reviewed, but I mean, even if it wasn't, surely that's endangering an opponent. Even if you don't kick out, you've raised your leg, and you've.
I thought, to be honest, the way that Vardy looked at Mustafi was like he'd lost an eye. I thought it was the fact that he thought he'd lost an eye.
Well, yeah,
because
there you go. Endangering.
It was close because he looked like if he wanted to leave something in on him, then he was absolutely shit scared because you saw the life go out of Jamie Vardy's face when he then saw how he'd caught Mustafi and where he'd caught him. So maybe he's trying to leave a little bit thing on him, or maybe he's not. But I think for that brief 2 seconds when the camera pans to him and just all of the blood rushes out of Vardy's face, he didn't mean it in that way.
I think Julian Salmon makes a really good point here. Then we move on. He says, probably with VAR, his most mistimed challenges slow down look like a red.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. You can make it look anything you want to fit an agenda. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there you go. And Mark Davis, they are all corrupt at the FA. Well, we all know that.
Mark's right. Yeah, Mark's right.
Excellent. Is there any other... Do we want to talk about the emergence of Xhaka and Tierney? Anybody want to make any points on that? Or should we just leave that because it's obvious? We just sit here for 30 seconds and just go...
It's just refreshing, isn't it? It's just refreshing. I imagine Tierney's very much a Geoff Arsenal type of player as well, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Love it. Different class. Looks really, really good. Great prospect. Got a bit of guts about him. I like it. I like a fullback when they'll stand up and they'll just have a foot race with another defender and try and make that line and get a good cross in. Whereas you see, I mean, look at, no disrespect, I apologise to Hector Bellerin when he listens to this podcast because he obviously does, doesn't he?
They all do.
But, Hector, when he receives the ball from one of the centre halves and one of our midfield players and he's wide on the right-hand side, there's a great big bit of space in front of him, apart from one defender. He just turns back and he passes it backwards. Whereas Tierney, whatever his name is, right, he will fly down that left-hand side, and the first thing he wants to do is go past his defender. He's got a great pace, great balance, and a great cross. So I'm looking at good things for Tierney.
And plays with his shirt tucked in. That's a rare one these days.
The tucked-in shirt. It's not a good look nowadays, is it?
It's very Glaswegian, isn't it? It's very Scottish. I like that. But yeah,
so funny, Chris, you don't have your shirt tucked in, Chris, do you?
No. Mainly because if I do, it shows off the dad gut still. So I've got to let it all hang,
So where do we think we're in years to come that we will see Tierney rated? I don't know why I always said that with an Irish accent. It's my mum's bloody fault.
Tierney.
Where do you think Tierney is going to be in a few years' time? Do you think he's already shown that he is top 10 Arsenal left-back quality?
He'll be at Barcelona in 10 years' time. We all know that. I think he's the best left-back we've had since Ashley Cole. I know that's a statement, and for the record, as much
he can defend.
Well, yeah, but he can attack as well. And much as I don't like to admit this, Ashley Cole was arguably the best left back anyone's ever seen. You know, people talk about Roberto Carlos. The guy couldn't defend for Toffee. Ashley Cole could do everything. And to be fair, he's actually doing quite a good PR job of coming across as a better human being these days. So fair play to him for that. But yeah, I mean, Ashley Cole was one of the very best. And
better than Maldini?
Yeah, maybe there's an argument for that. To be fair, Maldini was probably the greatest of all time. But
Maldini did both, didn't he? Left back and centre back.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the British game, then maybe we'll say that. But he's twice the player Andy Robertson is for me, and he gets plaudits all week long. So, the biggest thing for Tierney, as any Celtic fan, is just keeping him fit. If we can keep him fit. And ward off, potential suitors. I think he's brilliant.
But his injuries have been his shoulders, though, isn't he? He fell on both of them, so maybe he's just got an issue with ease. There are people that have easily dislocated shoulders. It is a thing that I've never seen anyone with a dislocated shoulder, but apparently there's a lot of them just go, I'll just pop it back in and I'll carry on. But he landed.
I think he's one of those players, isn't he? Because he's so all action. And he's constantly putting his body on the line, that the injuries he picks up are those kind of, like a shoulder, as you say, it's falling over. He's not doing that because he's sprinted a little bit too hard. He's not doing his shoulder doing anything weird like that. It's not hamstring injuries. It's legitimate impact injuries that are just keeping him out for a while.
And it's not going to stop him. Debbie makes a point here. Tierney has played 4 to 5 games. That's how much we all rate him. And I remember before we signed him and watching the old YouTube compilations and thinking, fucking hell, this boy likes to get stuck in. He likes to go down the wing and he likes to pinpoint across. So imagine poor old Giroud, if we'd have had him there. Giroud would have been scored a few more goals. Geoff, is there anything else you'd like us to cover before we go to listeners' questions?
Xhaka, fair play to him.
Go on, Em.
Another one, critique. I've been backward passes all over the place, and since Mikel's come in, he has transformed him, and he's a different player now. And fair play to him. Yeah, good kudos for the lad, because and you know what, his work rate has gone up as well. He was all over the pitch last night, doing a great job, and he's obviously signed up to Mikel's way of playing and way of doing things, and I honestly thought he was gone when he told the crowd to F off and stuff like that. But fair play to him.
Yeah, it just shows what can happen, Josh, doesn't it? When you put your hands up, like Kris was saying, just to be out, sorry, and then move on. Well, yeah, I've forgiven him, but again, does anyone really blame him for telling half that crowd to fuck off because they were being twats?
I mean, to be fair, they're not allowed in now, so who's the real winner?
Who's the winner? He's just right though. Like, he has. I'm still not his greatest fan. I still think if we could get a Partey type player in, I still think. I still don't think he's. When I say Arsenal quality, I think us three would probably get a sniff with the squad at the moment. But when I say we could do better, I still believe that. I still think we could have signed a much more mobile and adaptable midfielder. But while he's here, if he's doing what he's been doing the last few weeks since lockdown and everything, as like Geoff said, his attitude seems brilliant. He's still got a bit in him where you go, oh God, where are you going? Or, oh God, what are you doing? But I don't think you'll ever get that out of this game. So yeah, fair play to him.
Okie dokie. Right. Any more points before we move on to questions? Anyone? The silence has decided.
No, chat box has mostly been chatting about whether or not we should talk about Lacazette.
Anybody want to, Kris? Do you want to say something on Lacazette?
I could say lots.
He tries. He never gives up trying, does he?
The main three things for me about Lacazette is I'm starting to be convinced that there's some injury there or there's something. To me, he doesn't seem to be moving well. For me, he doesn't
explosive pace.
Well, you say that, but there's a bit of a myth about that. He's never really been a pacey forward. He's one of those. He's got quick feet, but he's not a particularly fast forward. He's the sort of guy who arrives in the penalty area and sticks goals away. He's not slow by any means, but at the moment he looks like a man who's been on the vodka for a few weeks. He just looks a bit sluggish and looks like he can't quite move like he did before. Some of it's confidence, but I think what you get with Lacazette is what we saw at Wolves. When he's on his game and when things, when he's given the opportunities, he can win matches and he will take chances like that. And I think the biggest decision that we potentially got in the summer is do we try and keep both centre forwards, or do we keep Aubameyang and move Lacazette on and move Aubameyang into the centre? My suspicion is that's what will happen. It feels a little bit to me like Lacazette might be open to a move potentially. I feel like the club might edge him that way, and I feel like he would potentially be interested in moving on. But obviously, if it was me, I would keep him because his work rate's fantastic. He does a lot for the team that goes unnoticed, but ultimately he'll be judged on goals because that's what he's in the side to do. And apart from the Wolves game, and again last night, he had 2 really good chances and didn't take either. Hopefully saving them for Sunday because that would be delightful. But I think too many people have forgotten he was our player of the season when he first came in. And I think, again, people have short memories, but it's one of those. He just doesn't look to be moving freely to me, and there's a bit of a lack of a confidence there.
He looked a lot better, I thought, in the game against Leicester. I think that goal near the end against Wolves gave him a bit of a boost because he was taking a lot more shots, a lot more chances.
Movement.
I just don't know if it was poor finishing from Lacazette or great goalkeeping from Schmeichel last night that denied him from getting a goal. Because I think that header, most goalkeepers don't save that one. To be honest, in the Premier League, I think just the way Schmeichel he follows his dad in the way he blocks shots, doesn't he? He goes with that jumping frog jump. So just kind of star jump, just gets everywhere, gets his body in the way. And I think against another goalkeeper, I think he scores that. But I don't know. It was difficult, wasn't it? And to be honest, in hindsight, we should have kept him on because then Eddie doesn't come on and get sent off. But we can't have everything. And
he was unlucky for the offside goal as well because he was offside, but he was in exactly the right place to finish that off. That's where you want him. That's where the penalty area striker. I just feel like we've got 2 really quality number 9s, and we're forcing one to play wide, and we're forcing another one to play through a bad spell of lack of confidence, and the 2 don't really mix very well.
Chris Kiwami and Ali equals Lacazette.
I think Phil might be trolling a little bit there. But he divides opinion, but I just think sometimes we've got a bit short memories. I just think it's one of those that sometimes players go through.
We need Eddie isn't ready yet. Geoff, what do you think on Lacazette? Is Eddie ready to take the lone striker kind of role that Lacazette had for us? Because I doubt we're ever going to see Aubameyang playing as a main striker, are we?
If it's a straight shootout between choosing Lacazette or Eddie Nketiah currently, it's a no-brainer. I would always choose Lacazette because, you see what you get with him. That goal against Wolves, his first touch he's brilliant anywhere around the box, right? He is very selfish, and he will make a bit of space for himself, and he'll have a shot, left foot, right foot, anything. And even his hold-up play is better than Eddie Nketiah. Eddie's got to fill out a little bit. But what you do get from Eddie is quicker across the pitch. He's a little bit more enthusiastic about it. He'll run and chase and harry. That is needed on a lot of occasions. But the quality really is down to Lacazette. He's honestly, I think he's technically one of the best footballers at the club. However, it's no secret that every manager he's played under, he doesn't get a full game. So that must have something to do with his stats and his fitness. Maybe he can't hold the fitness. Maybe, the stamina's not there. Because every single manager that has worked with him, they've always brought him off after 60 or 70 minutes. And that's a thing. All these football clubs, they work on stats nowadays. Personally, I think he might be a make weight with the Athletic deal with Thomas Partey. I think there'd be something in that. We'll have to see, though, won't we?
One quick thing before we go to listeners' questions, Josh. Partey, is he What sort of Arsenal player of the past do you think he is?
Oh,
roughly.
That's a big one.
No one's going to hold this.
I mean, anyone who watches Spanish football more than I do will hold me to account because I can't tell you the last Spanish football game I watched.
Me
so
neither.
Asking me about Thomas Partey isn't a huge... I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out and I'd make lazy stereotypes about Thomas Partey. But from what I've heard, he's a slightly better ball carrier. He's like a bit of a ball carrier. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I could say. From everything I've seen on Twitter, it sounds like they're describing John Obi Mikel, to be honest, with a player that plays... Sorry, Geoff.
Sorry, I would, Daniel. If I would say he's obviously it's a modern game now. It's a different game, but he's a tougher, taller, stronger Paul Davis. You remember Paul Davis, Dan?
Do I? I was looking the opposite direction when he elbowed Glenn Cockrell. I thought, what's everyone shouting about? And in front of me.
Yeah, that's the type of player he is, you know. But
very underestimated Arsenal player in history. Was Paul Davis, great player.
I've only seen maybe 7 or 8 games from Partey. So, but that's what I've seen of him.
Do you think he'll fit in? Do you think he'll play in that role that we've been wanting since I suppose Gilberto was the last one, wasn't he? That played in that proper. You're not going to fuck with me. I'm going to get the ball off you. I'm going to pick you up by the scruff of the neck, take the ball off you, and then pass it upfield.
Yeah, he looks the piece, but you never know. Once they get over here, it's difficult. It's Premier League. It's hustle bustle, isn't it, mate? It's a different league altogether, and you never know how they're going to adapt to it.
Now that we've finished talking about Kris, Thomas Partey, can you give us your lowdown on him in 30 seconds or less? And then we really are going to go and do the questions.
Yeah, big fan. I think he's as I said earlier, I think he's the sort of player we've been missing for a while. Not going to pretend that I'm a Spanish football expert because I'm not, but I do know a couple of people who are, in particular Joel Melwa, who Josh and I know from the Hipsters pod. He's a very, very talented central midfield player, kind of box to box more than just a destroyer. Good athlete, good genes in terms of his sort of miles coverage. If you look at his overall stats when he plays, he's very much a player that runs and runs for days. And I think he's the perfect complement to either a 3 or a 2-man midfield. I think if you put him alongside Xhaka or Ceballos, I think you've got a really, really gifted player there. And the best thing I can say to you is, do you remember when everyone literally wanked themselves blind over Jeffrey Kondogbia's performance for Monaco at the Emirates? And everyone said, "Oh, we got to sign him. We've got to sign him." He's 3 times the player Kondogbia is. So if you want to sort of look at it from that perspective, that's what I'd say. And I do remember, and I know I would say this, but I genuinely remember when he first broke into the Atletico side. And I remember talking to Tom, funny enough, about it at the time. I said, "Oh, that guy looks." Sometimes you can just tell from a player. And Patrick Vieira came on the pitch against Sheffield Wednesday, and we all sort of looked at each other and went, there's a player here. And that's the impression that I got from Partey when he first made the breakthrough at Atletico, and he forced his way into that side and ended up taking that position. And I can't remember the guy's name. Old Shithouse, he used to play in midfield for Atletico before he retired. Can't remember his name. Was it Raul Garcia? Was it Raul Garcia? I think it was.
Yeah, Gabby.
Oh, Gabby. Yeah, the Gabby's an even better example. He essentially took those two. I think Gabby ended up retiring and Raul Garcia moved on to Athletic Bilbao. And the reason they did is because Simeone put all his faith in Partey. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And if we can get that deal done, I think we could build our midfield around him, for a couple of years to come. So I'm a big fan of his personally.
I've never seen him play, and Atletico are actually my Spanish team, and that's I just get bored watching them under Simeone. Sean Unpronounceable says Partey reminds me of what everybody thought Victor Wanyama was going to develop into ... but didn't. Thank you very much.
Remember that. Remember him whenever I said we should sign him. My God, painful.
Right, gentlemen, we have got. Do you want to go and inject your cat, Kris, now while we're doing some questions, or can you leave it 20 minutes?
I've just given him their food, so he's got to have his injection half an hour after eating, so we're good.
Geoff, are you good for another 20 minutes?
Me, Daniel?
Yeah, are you good for another 20 minutes for questions, and then we can go?
You give me 10 minutes, Daniel.
Okay, well, I'll give you some questions first, and then I'll do the rest of them with these two losers.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right, keep yourself unmuted, Geoff. Listeners' questions. Right, Phil, I'm not going to ask you that one because that's from Mike. Mike's an idiot. No, I'll say that for Kris. No, not that one. Josh Robinson. I love Torreira. Missed having a player like him. Huge boost to have him back. Will be interesting to see how and if Mikel utilises him. What do you think his future is at the club? Cheers, Mike. Josh?
Josh or Geoff, did you say?
Thank you, Josh, and Geoff, you can answer it. Thoughts on Torreira, whose name I keep saying.
I like Torreira.
That's the one.
looking at what obviously Pep has had at Manchester City, and thinking that Mikel's going to be looking at the same, I do think that he's going to have something a little bit more taller, stronger, more athletic, longer legs, so you can stop the balls going past you when players are trying to put it down the angles. You'll be surprised if you're closer to people and you've got longer legs. I know it sounds a bit strange, but so I don't know whether or not. I mean, I like Torreira, but again, he's another few quid there that we won't be able to sell him and get a few quid and sling it into Partey or someone else. I would keep him, but I do like him, and I'm not sure whether he's going to start at Arsenal. You can't really tell. He's obviously just come back from injury. He might wing it and get his way into the first team and do a job.
Okie dokie, I agree with you there.
Just
right.
Really quickly on Jeff's point there, just a very quick one. His point about Pep and building that side is exactly right. Partey would be the Fernandinho piece of the jigsaw if we were to get him. So yeah, I completely agree with what Geoff said there.
Okey-dokey. Right, one for you, Josh. I've got your ones from the last show as well and the podcast before that, Josh. So this is from Mike from a podcast called the Gooners Podcast. I've never heard of it. Sounds like a load of Americans going on about PKs. Given our penchant for diabolically capitulate, look at him. He's been on the bloody the long word.
He's eating a thesaurus, isn't he?
Capitulate, fucking it up late in games during squeaky bum time. Would you rather enter the final 20 minutes of the game a goal up or level? I feel we're more likely to snatch a late winner than hold a late lead. We're at 6s and 7s. He's only put that in because he had the bracket game for football cliches. That's shitbag. Yes. So what do you think?
It's a good question. I'd always rather we go into the last 20 minutes leading, to be honest, because as much as you think we could grab a last-minute winner, I kind of see us being able to get on that counter-attack as well now, especially the way we kind of set up, and we could get a second. I think that's where I'd rather go into it. Obviously, it didn't work yesterday against Leicester, but you can't be right all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm just. I didn't expect you to answer that quickly. Apparently, I'm asking is on. Oh, there you go.
Nick was
watching that podcast from Dial Square to here. Had 9 people on the podcast, and I watched the first 20 minutes of it. It's very good. There's lots of interesting people on there. That's Andrew. Okay, so obviously that's Andrew. I forgot to say Andrew. Yes. What was I going to do? There was
another question, I think. You asked if Nick was there in the chat box.
Nick's birthday. Thank you, Josh. I'm glad someone listens because I had a touch of the doors there. Yeah, it's our Nick's birthday. You got £200 birthday money. So happy birthday, Nick. If you're still there, let us know and we'll all give you a wave. If you're not, then you can buy
streaming
me.
at the moment on Twitch. So.
Is he?
Yeah, at Nick Fights, if you want to.
Oh, actually, I know I'm going to do something a little bit sneaky in a minute. You can guess what. Right, next question. I'll answer this one just to get it out of the way. From the one-armed bastard, that is his actual name. And Jace banned his missus from recently from the chat box. And luckily at the end of every season, we give everybody an immunity and everyone's allowed back in apart from Chelsea fans. So he says, I'll answer this one. Who's our third choice striker with Eddie out? He's put Pepe, Joe or Granit. I would say nobody. I mean, I think Lacazette will play every single game at a push. John Jules was out on loan, but he's back because the League 1 and League 2 shut down. And we've also got Bellerin there, but Bellerin has been a little bit of a cheeky scamp and is moaning about not getting games. So I reckon I'm going to look here at our thing. Anybody disagree that Lacazette just won't play all the games now?
I think Lacazette will come in. To be honest, I think it'll be interesting on what we do with the Bellerin situation, because he clearly wants more playing time from us, and I think he's of an age now where he should start breaking through. I don't think he necessarily expected Eddie to come back in from his Leeds spell, and Ballaghan's always kind of seen him come in and step on his toes almost and block his progress. And if he doesn't want to sign a new deal and send him out on loan to somewhere in the Championship, and he just wants to move permanently, then I think it's one of those who's just got to suck it up. We've seen other talented strikers leave our youth academy and go on to better things. Donald Marlin, for one, who's now firing things up. Yeah, PSV comes to mind. But we've got such a great amount of talent coming through that I know it sounds arrogant, but it almost doesn't matter.
True.
He's going. If it's if this was the only fullback we had coming through the youth academy system, and he wasn't getting game time, then I'd start to flag that as a problem, that we're not getting a route to the first team. But look at the number of young players we've got in forward positions from this season. It's not like there isn't a problem getting in there if he wants to. It's just there's so much talent, unfortunately, at that age. And we've brought through an absolute shed load of, wingers and forward players through the youth academy recently that, unfortunately, there just isn't the space for him.
Very good. Right. I agree with that. Next question is going to be, so that one could be deleted. No, I'm going to save that one for Kris. Here we go. Geoff, here's a long one. Oh, here you go, Geoff. One for Ozil. From our very own John Itchy Underpants Welsh. Would you pay off Ozil's contract to get him out of the club? That question was from about 3 weeks ago, before we realised how awful he was at the moment and the whole sticky situation. Geoff, what do you think?
If he's not going to conform to what the manager wants, we have got to get him out of the club, because he's a type of player that could poison the rest of the team. There's only one way out, and you've got to subsidise to get his. Obviously, no club's going to want to pay you £350,000 a week after this COVID has gone on. And there's going to have to be some kind of. We'll have to pay something. But if we had to do that, I would do it just for the sake of the football club and the football team going forward.
Good. I agree with you there. If people are wondering, that's our Nick. It's happy birthday. It's his birthday. I've put the link to his Twitch channel in there. So at the moment, he has got he's got 7 people watching him. So if you want, you can go in there, go and spam him, and go and say happy birthday, Nick. You're live on ABW. I think Josh and Kris are the only ones here that have got Twitch accounts. So actually, I'm going to go and minimise that just so I can see if any of you scumbags go and write anything abusive in there. Right, so next question is going to be for Kris. Geoff, interrupt and give me a shout when you need to leave, and then I'll give you one last question. Question for you, Kris, from PG_Nez, who I think is in the chat box tonight. He says, if Guendouzi does leave Arsenal in the summer, should Arsenal try and get Adrien Rabiot to replace him, unsettled at Juventus, after being unsettled at PSG? Bonus, he has retired from international football and his mum is lovely. Now, I know we've covered it a little bit, but I didn't know he'd retired from international football.
Yeah, well, it's one of those, has he retired from international football because he knows damn well he's not going to get anywhere near the squad? Probably closer to the mark. Yeah, I don't know. PG is a great follow, by the way. If you like me, like a bit of French football, he's very good for that. So give him a follow. Yeah, the problem you've got with Rabiot is you're essentially swapping one moody, troublesome midfielder for another moody, troublesome midfielder. The problem with Adrien Rabiot is everything that goes within the circus, and most of that revolves around his mother, who's his agent. Personally, nah, I think that ship has sailed. If you'd have asked me this question before we signed Guendouzi, I'd have said yeah, especially when you could got Rabiot on a free, because at least then you haven't really lost anything. And I think Juventus played a really clever game here by getting him on a free, and will probably sell him on now at higher value. They did the same with Emre Can when he went back to Dortmund. Rabiot showed what he's capable of. If you saw the game against Juventus last night, picking the ball up in his own half, running the length of the field and smashing one in from 25 yards. His talent is there, but his attitude will always be there. And a lot of it is off the pitch, but he is also a bit of a so-and-so on the pitch in terms of in terms of baggage, shall we say. So yeah, I would definitely as I see
you shouting down then.
Yeah, Dan, yeah, quality.
God, I didn't realise I don't need to see you. So go carry on.
Yes. So I would just say no to that one. I think there are better midfielders out there that we could get that come with less baggage. And I think Adrian can stay where he is or be sold somewhere else for me. So yeah, talented, but too much baggage.
Good. Right. So Josh, Geoff, did you say give you one more or give it to Josh next and then you?
Yeah, ask Josh a question and then give me my last one if you wish.
Okey-dokey. Right, that's the one for you. Now that one doesn't make any sense. So, wow, this is a long one. This is from Ben for Josh. Actually, I'm going to give you yours, Geoff, because Josh is going to take a while to answer this one. For you, Geoff, from Gooner Dub. Why do you think Arsenal are constantly going 1v2 at opponents' corners? We do it almost every corner, and we're doing it under Emery too.
1v2, what, taking a short corner, do they mean? Or do that little one where they move it to the side 10 metres and then they try and do a 1v2?
I don't know. That's all he's put.
Kris, can you give me a bit of daylight on that?
So short corners, 1v2.
I don't know what he means.
Is the point that we're not mixing the corners up?
I'll read it again. Why do you think we are constantly going 1 versus 2 at opposition corners?
1 versus 2. Oh, in terms of us not having enough cover and being a bit zonal. It's a tactical thing, surely.
We've conceded a couple of goals, haven't we? The last 2 games, I think. Was it Sheffield United or one of them? What was the game we?
Brighton,
wasn't it?
Brighton, the short corner.
Shocking. Yeah, they switch off at the near post. I mean, if it looks like it's going to be a short corner, you've got to get a man out there early doors. I mean, and that's all about concentration again, But I think, and it happened again last night, didn't it? We had another short corner. Was it from the goal? I'm not sure. Was it from the goal? That goal they scored?
Was it offside? Or I know the one you mean, but yeah, we switched off completely, didn't we?
Switched off again, yeah. And that's the second time. I should imagine Mikel will be all over that. He won't be happy with that. They'll work that out. I'm sure they will. But no, he's made a good point there, the lad. But the fullback, that's about in-game management again. Someone's got to be looking at that, and they've got to be switched on all the time. But whoever's over on that side, it's your duty. As a footballer, especially when you're involved in the game, you can feel it. You've got to keep your eye out. And if there's someone that's coming behind you, looks like they're going to play a little short one, you've got to get out amongst it.
Yeah.
Jolly good. Yeah, I agree with that. It is a bit concerning, but I think these sort of things are going to come in time, aren't they? He can't change and turn everything around all in 2 or 3 games, can he?
No.
No, right, Geoff.
It'll take time, but it's a worry. It's something we've got to look at, yeah.
Are you off now, Geoff?
I am indeed. God bless you, gentlemen. It's been lovely to see you again, and see you in a few weeks' time. Yeah.
For the listeners, from the people that is there any but one transfer that you think is more likely to come off than any others? Because you do know a few people, don't you?
I do fancy that. I think Partey. I think we might get that one over the line, and that's all I'm going to go for now.
Oh, you a tease. Cheers, Geoff. It's been great to have you back on.
Ciao, mate. God bless. Bye bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. Right. Right. And what was I going to do next? I was actually
a massive question.
I am going to, but that there, people, is the YouTube link to Andrew, who is in the chat from Dial Square to Where. He did a show tonight with 9 people, including himself. Stan the Man was on there, and there was Deli Gooner was on there. The Bearded Gooner was on there. I can't remember who else was on there. There was quite a friend. There was one person, Andrew, that said Matt Macey was he'd rather have Matt Macey in goal than Martinez. That's when I stopped listening, so I had to go and set this up. I hope you put him right on that, because that's crazy. Right, Josh, long question for you from Ben. Arsenal's recruitment system has been all over the place over the last few years. I'm reading this slowly so you can take it in. However, it now seems to be the youngsters with a resale value. Do you agree with this, or should we also be signing names to improve us too? And then while you digest that, he's also put. That's another question that he's given there. So yeah, what do you think?
I think our recruitment strategy, I would say, on initial kind of looks, is better than it has previously been. You can feel that there is some thought behind what KSC wants to do, or at least what Josh Kroenke wants to do with the club. I think with Edu coming in, I think that's going to bring a lot more stability. We're going to be less reliant on Raul's black book for contacts. I think we're only going to use that if we need to use that to basically say, oh, Raul, we're looking at this player. Do you have a contact with his agent? Rather than Raul coming and saying, oh, I've got this contact and he's got this player. And then us going, oh, maybe. Sure, let's buy David Luiz. Yeah, that seems sensible. I think that's where we'll see the difference is, players like Pablo Mari. He's not young. He's 26 or so. But we know specifically why he bought him or why we brought him in. It was because Arteta said he wants a left-footed centre-back. And we went out, we got one on loan, and then we've paid 10 million or so for him a couple of weeks ago to make it permanent. The same goes with Cedric. There were a lot of people saying that was a ridiculous deal to bring him in. And I think those who had seen him play at Southampton or when he was on loan at Inter Milan a couple of seasons ago, that you knew the quality of Cedric. He's not a bad player. And although, through exceptional circumstances, we have seen him actually make an appearance this season from him overcoming those injuries, I think we've also made another quietly good, shrewd signing. There's still some of the big money signings out there that we have made previously that you'd look at and go, still not sure. But we knew, like someone just like a Pepe, he wasn't going to necessarily be an overnight success. That was paying for a player who was going to be a success. Maybe, this season he'd give you an average season, and then next season is the season that's why you're paying the £72 million to bring him in. It's for his next couple of years. And if we do come in with a big deal for them, then if someone comes in and wants to buy them, great. But to be honest, we've just tied up Martinelli to a brand new contract. I think that's going to put a lot of clubs off. And I think from the sounds of things, he wants to stay with us. But then it's also helped us with Guendouzi. It's not worked out, but we're going to turn a profit on him. I don't think we're going to sell him for, at least treble what we paid for him. I think we brought him in for 8 million or so. You can't see him going out the door for less than 24. I've just got to prove to the chat box that I can do maths as well by shouting that bit out. So I think the way that we're now looking, unfortunately, it's one of the problems when you look at things from this holistic point of view, is that the points you make can't always be proven until 2 years down the line. The only thing you need is time. And I think that's a very different way of looking at it compared to just shouting and going, this is a problem. This is always a problem, because you've got proof up until you're proven wrong, if you know what I mean. Or at least, as you say, you can make an argument about it, but really you're arguing about something that's going to prove you wrong down the line. So whilst it doesn't look like we have a strategy, come back to us in 2 or 3 seasons, look at what we've done in those transfer windows with Mikel Arteta and Edu. And I think you'll see that there is a plan in place and it's been executed.
I would say, adding to that, the one area of the team that we've not had much success in is centre-backs. Not many have really come through. But then when you have a look at the fact that we've got Pepe, Luiz, Mustafi, I'm just looking through these, Mari, Chambers, Holding. That's 6 regular. Mavropanos there. That's another young one who's been out on loan. When you've got that many ahead of you, you're going to struggle to try and get any. Like Xhaka came in because we needed somebody on the left, and and Willock has come in because of Ozil not being played much. Talking of Willock, did you know Willock has played more games for Arsenal this season than any other player?
Yeah, I know.
How weird! He's played
doesn't surprise
39
me.
games.
Doesn't surprise me that he's always come on as like a bit part player. Emery he's the only player across like all 3 tenures that everybody or the coaches relied on as just either coming in and out as a substitute or, trusting him with the whole game. And
he's getting unnecessary stick from some fans as well, by the way.
He's brilliant. Well, he has played the 16th highest number of minutes, though. Maitland-Niles Ozil's played more minutes than him, though. So, like Kris was saying, but yeah, people are being a bit mean, Kris. But
he's played loads of positions as well. I think that's another thing. That although I would say it's a lazy observation to say that he's played all his games in midfield, because midfield isn't a position.
No,
at all. In the same way, it's like comparing, saying, defense, and then not going, and then assuming that centre backs and left backs are exactly the same. The midfield, there's so many different minutiae of that position there. We've seen Willock play behind the striker in a kind of not Mesut Ozil. I'd almost say like supports shadow striker, like, and I'm going to, sorry on the eve of North London Derby, I'm going to use his name, but it's the best example I can think of at the moment in Dele Alli. I know. Sorry, guys. I couldn't think of anyone else that plays that kind of position. And then we've seen him play like next to Xhaka. Was there in like a swap out for Guendouzi. He's played all over the place and asked for different roles. And it's that kind of thing that has seen him put in so many minutes or so many appearances, should we say, rather than minutes.
I wonder if that indirectly is going to lead to a bit of a renaissance for Ainsley Maitland-Niles as well. Because I think if you'd have asked me 6 months ago, would this guy be at Arsenal next season? I would have said absolutely not, no chance, gone. Under Arteta, he is slowly but surely seems to be getting back on board, if you know what I mean. And I think, the worst thing he did was come out and say, I don't want to play right back. If he'd have just sort of kept stum, I think he probably would have been getting the chances in midfield now. But the fact he came out and spoke about it. But if you look at the young players we've got in the squad, he's still got a part to play if he wants to be part of it. And I think if you can look at building a squad around what the future could be, Tierney, Bellerin, Saliba, Willock, Maitland-Niles, Xhaka, Martinelli, possibly Rob Holding, although I'm not 100% sure whether Arteta fancies him. I think he might fancy Chambers more than Holding. I'm not sure if there's a place for both, but there's a spine there potentially of young, talented players, and we're forgetting players like Smith Rowe, who's gone off radar but has performed very well at Huddersfield on his loan spell. He will potentially come back, particularly if Mesut Ozil moves on. That would be a role that you'd look at and think he'll get some chances, if not in the Premier League, in Europe. There's all of a sudden a few players that, some won't make it. Of course they won't, but there's a few players that are in and around that squad. Matt Smith's made the bench, 3 times out the last 5 games. We haven't seen a lot of him, but George Bird speaks very highly of him. And if there's anybody that would know, it's George. So, I think there's a nucleus of a real sort of future. And don't forget, these players have come through together as well, so they know each other's games. And if you can sprinkle that and splice that with the experience of a Xhaka and mix it with the potential of a sort of a Partey Stella signing, and you keep Aubameyang, who by all accounts sounds to be quite a good influence on the young players, you've got a nice blend of youth and experience there. So I think we should be doing all we can to try and keep these young players that are on board the Arteta train. And whilst Maitland-Niles, for me, I think I remember Dom and I having this conversation a while back. I think he was massively overhyped when he was just doing a good job, but I do still think he has a future at the club if he wants to stay. If he doesn't, fine, we move him on. But I think if he wants to stay and he's on board with the ideas Arteta has, I still think he's got a future as well.
I agree with that. Right. Phil Macker asked about 3 weeks ago, Leno has been immense. How worried are you guys about how bad we will look at the back without him? Phil, we don't need to answer that question now. Thank you very much. Questions from the live show from a couple of shows ago from you, Josh. Archie said, thoughts on the Saliba situation and Mickey. I think we'll all agree. Mickey, good riddance. And Saliba, Kris, I thought, how could they want £2.7 million for us to let them use him in their French Cup final? And then someone explained it to me. There's a clause in the loan contract that if he plays one more game, we owe them £2.7 million. Is that been a little bit sneaky, or do they just go, well, it'd be good for him to play and help us win the cup final, or was it both?
There's a little bit of both sides that are at fault here. I think Arsenal are at fault to the degree that this is a young lad that is coming to Arsenal, and I don't think it would start brilliantly where we sit back and go, cup final, no chance. But at the same time,
who are they playing?
It's PSG. So the likelihood is St Etienne will get ripped apart 5 or 6-1. Realistically, that's what's probably going to happen. But at the same time, PSG haven't played any games, so neither of neither of St Etienne. So there is a chance. If there was ever a chance for St Etienne, it's now. But irrespective of whether there's a chance or not, you're a young lad. You've come through the graduate scheme at us, and you've come through the ranks there. You want to play, and of course he wants to play. I've always been of the opinion, if he's injured, he shouldn't play. Simple as that. If he's fit, then the two clubs need to come together. And yes, I think 2.5 million. It's a fair chunk of money to pay a player for literally one game. I would be more looking at the person who signed off on that deal, knowing full well how many games St Etienne had to play, and knowing full well how many games potentially he would have played if they got to the cup final. Surely you would have sat down and gone, okay, let's find out the maximum games possible. If St Etienne were to win every game of every cup final, you would have thought that's what they'd have done. So for me, for our lack of knowledge of that and our bad planning, I think we should just meet in the middle and say to St Etienne, look, we're not going to pay you the 2.5 million, but we'll pay £1 million and let the lad play, because I don't want a player coming in. I don't want Saliba to join Arsenal under a cloud. And when I say under a cloud, I don't mean I don't want him coming in going, yeah, I'm really happy to be here, but I've really wanted to play this final, and it just doesn't sit well with me. It's one game. But on the flip side, if he does his cruciate, imagine our fan base then, and it would be a very Arsenal thing to do, wouldn't it? Let him play and he does his cruciate in the final. But no, I think you've got to give him that opportunity to play the final. And I think the clubs will probably come to some sort of agreement about it.
Hopefully. Just looking at St Etienne here, they were in the Europa League. They finished 3rd out of 4. They didn't win a game, drew 4, lost 2, and they were 3 points above the playoff relegation spot in Ligue 1, which is a disastrous season for them, considering they did so well over the last few seasons. But we're not here to talk about them, are we?
No, gone off a cliff, unfortunately, and it's all gone a little bit wonky. Yeah.
Right. We need to try and soon get this done within the... we've got another couple of questions here. Mickey, good riddance. Matt Roberts asked, we've got about a new physio. I've got that in my notes, Matt. So I'll talk about that another time. Daryl Kane, he made a good point. I'll read it out. We don't really need to answer it. But he says, do you think it would be wise for Arsenal to get back in the ways of signing the individual nations' best players? For example, Rasiki, Hleb, Sozabalasi. That's not even a word. Take a look at our internationals now. Josh, quickly, because we need to finish within 2 hours. Do you think that would be something we should concentrate on again, considering we had the Armenian Player of the Year for the last 300 years and he did fuck all for us?
I was going to say, we have Mkhitaryan. And to be fair, we've got Pepe as well. There's not many Ivorians that are tearing it up compared to him.
True. It's very true. Okay.
Also, nobody fucking at me for Zaha. Guy's had a shit season. Fuck off. 5 goals. He is now drawn level with Lewis Dunk for goals this season in the Premier League.
The man is an utter fraud.
Right. Now we are moving on to Fife's Forum. You lazy fuckers have given us 2 answers after a really good question. We're retiring Fife's Forum at the end of the season. You scumbags don't bother. We have 10 points out of our last 12 points available. Can this form continue for the rest of the season? Mike from the Gooners podcast. Yes, it can, especially if we win 3 and draw one of our next 4 games. You tit. And a one-armed bastard says Arsenal could, in capital letters, win 5 out of the last possible 6, but won't. Missing European football is going to hurt. You two, Kris, do you think we can carry on this form of or this really decent form?
Yep, I do. I think we'll beat Spurs. I really hope so, because that will fill me with lots of joy. I think we're capable of taking a point at Liverpool because they're on the beach very much. And I can't remember who else we're playing. Villa, is it? Or is it Villa? I think Villa.
Villa's one of them. And Watford, I want to say.
I think they're both winning.
Liverpool, Man City, away at Villa, home to Watford. But 3 of our last 4 home games are at home.
Yeah, I think we can take points from all of our remaining league games, and I certainly think we can win 2, if not 3 of those. And the cup semi-final, I mean, it's a flip of a coin. I just think that the league game might give Arteta a bit more of a chance, because I think he'll be ready for City this time. So, yeah, I hope so, because I'd love a cup final.
And we saw Man City go play Liverpool at Man City and smash them. Should have been 5-0. And now Liverpool are struggling to beat Brighton. Josh,
yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
I mean, they're not struggling. They are 2-1 up.
Go with it.
Okay, sure, 2-1 up. But Brighton have just brought Philip Schofield on.
Avon is in the chat box. He was watching Tom's show tonight. Avon, could you give us a little review of how R. Ellis was on the show? I say R. Ellis. Drew was on there as well. He's a regular, and yes, I'd like to know how he got on. I'd like a critique of Ellis, and feel free to end it with a hashtag fuck Ellis. Right, final things, gentlemen. Think of your gentlemen's nods while I go over possible podcast titles. Right, Phil Macker, ABW Amateur Tech Night. Mike in the USA said Geoff has the least shit beard. Well, we can't have that because you can't have swear words in it. My brother did Who Did the Poo? Archangel, The Redemption of Xhaka and Mustafi, and Phil Macker, ABW Amateur Tech Night. He's done that twice. So, yeah, just because you do it twice, Phil, doesn't mean it's more likely to get in. And which one of those do you like, Kris?
All of them. No, I mean, Who Did the Poo is great, but I'm not sure that would really describe the podcast. We'll probably have to go with Mustafi and...
I like that.
Yeah.
Josh, fine, you get the deciding vote. Which one you're going to go for as long as it's that one?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to go with Who Did the Poo.
Well, it's 2-1, isn't it? So you don't get the deciding vote. Actually, in the chat box, if you want to put in there which one we should go for, then let me know. Oh, yeah, Avon has said he and Drew were a cut above.
There you go.
Oh, and Avon says the podcast Let's Sell Leno. No, not doing that. Can't do that. Unless there's more votes for the Who Did the Poo, then plus you have to watch the show to know. Well, actually, I did do a bit of commentary as Kris ran off into the distance.
Exactly. I think it's a little enticer for people.
Oh dear.
I mean, everyone else's podcast can be called something like Mustafi and Xhaka's Redemption or Martinez, amazing.
Come on, chat.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bobby is, I don't know if you can see him behind me there.
Yes.
He's laid on the floor there. There he is, little monkey.
He's come to you.
And he is named after an Arsenal footballer, Bobby Perez.
Oh, are you being swayed, Kris?
I think I am, actually.
Oh, there you go, then.
Bobby's had a tough weekend. He deserves a little nod.
Yeah.
Phil's voting for himself. Not only has he told us twice, he's now voting for Tech. Someone time Phil out. No, don't do that. Right. The name of this week's podcast is Who Did the Poo? Jesus, you're making sure no one's ever going to listen to us, you absolute scumbags. Right, have you gentlemen got a... No, you gentlemen, behave yourselves. You scumbags got a gentleman's nod.
Yep.
Go on, Kris. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, it's a chap who messaged me whilst we were recording. So I want to give him a shout out. We just mentioned my poorly cat, bless him. Anthony Howe, who I think he lives in Toronto, Canada. Sorry. He lives in Canada. Anthony Howe at A James Howe. Go and give him a follow, people, because he's only got 62 followers, but he very kindly messaged me halfway through the pod to let me know that his cat is diabetic and he's been helping his cat out for 4 years. And he said if I've got any questions, he'd be happy to help. So thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate that. I have messaged you back. And that's very, very kind of you. So good shout out. Please give him a follow. He's a Gooner in Toronto.
Are you insured? Is Bobby insured?
No.
You having to pay for it yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm with PDSA. So
I don't know what that means. That sounds like something you get from being in Vietnam. I would strangle my cat with my bare hands if he had that. Fuck him. No way.
Currently, because I was made redundant when all this shit went down, I'm currently in receipt of benefit-based income. Therefore, I get a contribution-based pet care. So, yeah, it's not all bad news, but it's still expensive.
How old, Bobby?
He was born in 2008, so he'll be 30 next month.
Kris can't count people. He'll be 12 next month.
Sorry, 12.
Right, Josh. Who's your gentleman's nod going to go to?
I'm going to go for a. Actually, no. I'm going to go for at Sky Cricket because they posted something earlier. If anybody was unfortunate enough to want to try and watch the cricket when it came back today, the test between England and the West Indies that was mostly watching. Well, at one point, I think I saw Mesut Ozil go past on his money raft. It was that wet down in Southampton. But
money
exactly. But Mike Holding, the retired Jamaican cricketer, did an amazing 5-minute spiel on Black Lives Matter. It's absolutely superb. They also had I forget her name, Ebony, someone. She's an English cricketer. Also did a bit as well. But that tweet that they put out, it's about 5 minutes long, and I would implore anyone to have a watch of it because it's just superb, and just so. I would be, I don't know, if you disagreed with it, I think you'd need to have a strong, hard look at yourself.
To go and sit in the garden and have a think about what you have a think.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very powerful towards the end, especially. Yeah, really, really good. Really good stuff. Yeah.
Archangel says Bobby was born the last year we challenged.
There you go. Yeah.
My gentleman's nod is going to go to Pepe, who has become a father. So your life, Pepe, is now over. Well, unless you can run away and you're good at running. So that's it. And I don't think there's a next show is on Sunday after we play the Scum. So that is that. And I think there's only one way to end the show. There's a certain famous podcast that likes to sing during the show's theme tunes for players. So my one is Mana Mana Bergkamp Saka Mana Mana Bergkamp Saka Mana Mana Bergkamp Saka Mana Mana.
Never podcast.
And you can hear the sound of Chris's mouse being clicked in disapproval. I'm going to go and get in the naughty corner. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Mr. Carpenter.
Pleasure. I need to go and inject my cat.
That's not something you do, or you do in certain parts of the world where that is allowed. Yes. Right, Josh.
Daniel.
Thank you very much, Josh. It's good luck with your adding up and your minusing and your timesing and your what's the other one? I can't remember.
Reading.
That's the one. Thank you very much. So,
all that.
Thank you very much to everybody in the chat window. It's been different, and oh god, we're going to get actually, we're not monetized. We're going to get demonetized for me singing that song, and I expect the Terraces to be singing that as soon as we're allowed back in 5 years' time, while Saka is playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona. Right, this has been a Bergkamp Wonderland. You have been Kris, Josh, and the people in the chat box, and I'm going to say good night.
So that's how you end a show.